There comes a time in every Warhammer fan's life where they have to ask themselves the question, especially Eldar fans, why does GW despise us? Why does GW take everything I love and turn it into trash? Why do they deprive me of the things I enjoy spending money on? And I'm here to answer your questions. More specifically, the overarching question that was thrown into the thumbnail of this video if you were paying attention. Does GW despise the Eldar? No, not really. That's the end of the video. You can go click off. I'm just kidding. What's up, everybody? Angron's calmest son, aka Connor40K here. And I got to thinking, because, I like to peruse the internet, if you will. I'm what we call a surfer of the web. And I, keep seeing memes, and I saw some discourse regarding the Wraithbone stuff, and I didn't get too into it because mainly I'm not an Eldar fan. It doesn't really directly affect me, but nonetheless, a lot of people got pissed off regardless. And I kept seeing memes just in general about how the Eldar kind of always get the shit end of the stick, right? And that got me thinking, does GW actually despise the Eldar? And a lot of fans would think this, and it's not really that crazy of a, opinion to have, obviously, but no. Obviously, GW doesn't hate any of the factions because guess what? People are buying minis and it's making them money. But here's how I would phrase it. GW is never going to make the Eldar a priority, right? That's what you should be thinking, and that's probably what most fans should be saying, because obviously every faction is going to make money because they're going to have fans regardless. Every faction is going to have fans, even the lesser utilized ones, like let's say Sisters of Silence or, AdMech always gets kind of, in the story is usually destroyed and dog walked. So do the Eldar, Dark Eldar, Necrons at some points. But Xenos have been making a huge boom recently, We have the Infinite and Divine, Twice Dead Ruin, or Twice Dead King, I think it was. I didn't read that one. But the new Lilith Hesperax book was released, Xenos have been coming up, and, Arcs of Omen with Farsight especially. All the Xenos have been absolutely incrementally getting, boom, 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 more popular. But people still seem to conflate this idea that because they still get dog walked in, the narrative sense, and probably forever, when it comes to, battle points or whatever. I don't play tabletop, but I'm going to assume logically it still sort of applies there. That, the Eldar always get the shit end of the stick, and that's always how it's going to be. And there is a reason for that, but it's not because this emotional response where, oh, GW actually despises the Eldar. No, I'm sorry, dude. It's not what you think it is. It's most definitely not even a small team of people working on each faction. It's not. It's a bunch of suits who pass along ideas from other nerds, and then they give it to writers, and then the writers have to pick and choose what they're going to cut and what they're going to keep. And obviously it doesn't translate very well, especially if it's given to an author who doesn't either A, understand the faction, or B, isn't the biggest fan of the faction. So, GW is not going to do that. And they're, they don't hate the Eldar, but they absolutely don't prioritize the Eldar enough, right? Because there's always going to be people who are much smarter than me and you who are going to come on the internet and say, oh, well, how come they're not making the Eldar more of a threat? How come they always lose? How come this, billion-year-old race is always losing? They're psychic monsters. Well, listen, nerd. Let another nerd tell you how it's done. It's just not going to work from an economic, background, right? It's just not going to make sense. One time in one place, they saw that the Eldar weren't making enough money, and they gave up, and they obviously just assigned themselves to Space Marines. That's what makes them money. That's what makes them minis. That's what makes stories. That's what makes everything. Space Marine 2, the first Space Marine, Dawn of War, even though that includes multiple factions, including Eldar. But you see what I hope you guys see what I'm saying, though. They're never going to obviously directly dislike any given faction. But what we should be saying is, how do we fix this? How do we get them to prioritize Eldar even more? Now, obviously, I just mentioned it previously, Lilith Hesperax. There we go. Really good, from what I hear from people who have read it, pretty solid book. They've recommended it to me. I haven't gotten a chance to read it because I've been having college stuff to do, and quite frankly, I manage my time not as efficiently as I should be, But that aside, there's also ways to show them that they should make Eldar a priority. Obviously, you vote with your money. Obviously, when it comes to a multi-billion-dollar corporation, how do you show them you're interested? Boom. Make it rain. I don't have any money, but let's pretend I do. Make it rain on, all them Eldar. That's how you get the company to obviously teeter in the right direction. It's not going to be an overnight thing. But then they'll say, oh, okay, we're hearing them, we're seeing things. People obviously do like the Eldar, and they maybe should become more of a priority. They're never going to become the priority. I'm sorry. Never in a million years. I'll be 80 years old on this channel saying some outrageous out of pocket takes about Warhammer, and people will still be in the comments saying, oh, they don't care about the Eldar. They do. Just not enough. But they absolutely should. So long story short, does GW actually despise the Eldar? No. They don't prioritize the Eldar enough. But again, you can get them to prioritize them. You absolutely can. It's going to take a long time, but they'll significantly creep up, and be way better than how we see them now compared to how we saw them 10 years ago, compared to how we saw them 15 years ago. It's an upward battle, but no, GW obviously does not despise the Eldar. They just don't prioritize them enough. Anyway, you know, maybe this argument applies to other factions. If you guys have any other factions you think GW despises and how you think we could obviously bump them up a little bit, let me know in the comments down below. I always like hearing what you guys have to say. But other than that, I am out here.